It's the same hustle, it's the same thing, the same tears on everything. Maybe one day we'll see we're one big family, like it's one kettle. It's the same sunshine, it's the same rain, the same struggle just to maintain. Maybe one day we'll see we're one big.
We would like to thank our sponsors. The Juice Box, located on North 58th Street in West Philadelphia, serving organic drinks and more. ESPN Hair Zone, quality professional hairstylists for over 20 years for the West Philadelphia community. Sacred Healing Massages, providing mobile services in the Metro DC and North Virginia areas.
Greetings and welcome to Revealing America's Dark Skin Past. I'm your co-host, Red Tail Hawk, also known as Tabitha Sanders. I'd like to welcome our co-host, Red Silver Fox, also known as Renee Sanders.
Greetings, everyone.
My beautiful mother also. Today, we are going to be talking about Black History Month, the history of Black History Month. We'd like to thank everybody for coming back and checking us out again. We know it's been a while.
Quite some time.
And there's a lot going on. 2020 vision is real.
We
can see things that was hidden before, right? And as a part of that, it's also time for us as a populace to be more self-responsible, more self-aware, and really start to hold ourselves accountable for educating ourselves, critically analyzing our history, and then organizing in a way so that the future generations will have a better opportunity to, be culturally accountable for themselves.
Yes, and knowing history is is the most important part of knowing the culture and knowing your culture.
Knowing our story.
Yes. Yes.
In a proper context too, which is what we hope Indigenous Education offers you. So thanks for coming and checking us out. With that being said, we're talking about the history of Black History Month, and there's so much to be said, and I'm always looking at us from a so-called conscious perspective, or aware, woke, whatever the case may be. And with that said, in our community, there's a lot of complaints about Black History Month, and there's also a lot of myths that float around in our communities about Black History Month. Why it's the shortest month? Why they give us the month with the shortest days? Why they give us the coldest month? Why they? And so let's talk about that and really dig into the history of Black History Month, and why this month should be important to us, and why it's very, very, very important for us to begin to correct that narrative. And so I got my moms with me. She gonna drop it unlike anybody else. We ain't gonna get that buffoonery over here. We getting the facts. So let's talk about some facts. What we got going on today?
Okay. Well, 1926 is when Dr. Carter G. Woodson initiated, or he began, Negro History Week. He began this because he felt that the youth in the United States, and not only in the United States, but just youth in general and people in general, did not have the knowledge, especially Black youth, about Black history, about Black accomplishments, and the accomplishments of our ancestors. So that was something that he thought was very important. He chose the second week in February because it was already being celebrated in Black communities, where they were celebrating Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. However, this was not the beginning of Black History Week, nor was it the beginning of an awareness, or people putting forth an awareness of Black history within the United States.
Wow, okay. So just with those few statements, you've already knocked down one myth, which is that the month of February was chosen by us for very specific reasons that we can get into in a little bit later. However, so the month of February as a month that is the shortest month of the year, why did they give us why do they acknowledge our history in the shortest month of the year? Well, it was because the founder of Black History Month, whom was black, by the way, decided to do that. And what's interesting to me, and why this topic is important, is because our community has forgotten why he chose that time of the year to celebrate our history. And so what's up with that? Why do so many of us, particularly the ones that want to speak and make videos or comment on social media as experts, why are we not truly getting into things and we're just blaming the system or the white man for everything?
Well, research is difficult.
Okay.
And it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't have the time to put in to get the accurate research. You just can't read 1 or 2 articles and get the truth. You have to dig.
Which is why we have Indigenous Education, to hopefully provide you factual based information that you can depend on. We always ask you to verify our information before you share it or before you start to educate other people with it. But hopefully for certain that we offer fact-based information from an objective perspective most of the time.
And again, we always say that if we put forth something that is inaccurate, please inform us.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that we're putting out accurate information.
Did you get your copy of Revealing America's Dark-Skinned Past? Volumes 1, $10, and 2, $8. Available now on Amazon.com.
Yeah, so Black History Month was chosen by us for specific reasons.
Yes.
Boom. It was not chosen by the white man. Boom. Whoa, okay. So.
And it wasn't the first organization.
And it wasn't the first organization or the first time that celebration happened at that time of month. So wait a second. Let's get into this. Okay,
Yes.
Please share with us the history of Black History Month. Please, Mama.
Okay, well, we will begin with the first organization that was started, that was brought together to bring journalists and artists and those types of people together. And it was an organization that was called the American Negro Association. Let me make sure. American Negro Academy. Okay. And it was started in 1897 in Washington, D.C. Okay, and its objectives were to defend Black Americans against vicious racist attacks, to publish scholarly works on racial issues, and to encourage higher education and an appreciation for literature, science, and art within the Black community. Something that we still need to encourage within the Black community. W.E.B. Du Bois became its president in 1908. So from 1897 to 1908, another president was there.
Okay.
But W.E.B. Du Bois took over in 1908. He stayed there as the president, I do believe, until it folded. It folded in 1924, and this organization and Dr. E.B. Du Bois had a very large influence on Dr. Woodson.
Yeah, so, well, a few things. So W.E.B. Du Bois and Carter G. Woodson worked together.
They were contemporaries.
Okay, right. And so I found it interesting because, we spoke about it earlier. When we learn about Black history, W.E.B. Du Bois and Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, they're always pent against each other. And so I found it interesting that Carter G. Woodson is celebrating Frederick Douglass, in February, but he's working with W.E.B. Du Bois, who's also celebrating Frederick Douglass in February. Hold on, what's going on? Again, it's really important for us to look at our history, because when it's being told by somebody else, we don't know the small inferences that they make to turn us one way or another. Mm-hmm. I just want to point that out. Really, it's important for us. We really need to get into this. And so again, it was called the American Negro Academy. Mm-hmm. Now, so they fold in 1924, and Carter G. Woodson says, "Okay, I'm going to continue the mission." Maybe not that's not what he said, but that's what it looks like. Okay, well, let me continue this mission of this promotion of Black History Week now. You know.
But he did a few things in between, though.
Well, of course, the organization has to be established.
Right.
So he was.
Which is what we're about to talk about.
Okay, please go ahead, tell me. Please share with us.
Well, really, things started happening at the beginning of the 20th century, or the beginning in the 1900s. You know, it was a very dynamic time for Black people. You know, right after slavery ended, Blacks became very upwardly mobile. Many of them became state senators in several states, and white people were not very happy with this. And so this is when Jim Crow started coming about. However, it was still dynamic for Black people. You know, they were still, you know, trying to, you know, making ways to organize themselves. And so in 1915, there was an exposition for Negro progress that happened in Chicago in 1915.
Okay. Okay, so they had a big conference.
And as a matter of fact, the 1915 was celebrating 50 years of the end of slavery, and so this is why they had this exposition to bring journalists together, bring people together, bring all sorts of Black people together, you know, to celebrate Black history. And again, so it was, you know, Negro Progress happened in the summer in Chicago, 1915.
Okay, you know, that's interesting because, like what we just said it not too long ago, these are points that we're still making today. You know, that we as a community need to start, you know, self-declaring, advancing on our own terms, you know, about our history, about our art, our culture, and not having to be whitewashed. You know, I guess that's a good term to use.
Yes.
You know, in order for it to be palpable to the larger national community. You know, and so, you know, again, a very, very good reason for us as a collective group to organize. And unfortunately, 105 years later, we still, you know, we still need to maybe organize in Chicago again, and maybe we could get back
starting over
again, right? Because we're not there yet, right? And so maybe, you know, that's a part of educating ourselves about our history, is so that we could see some of the things that we've done that worked, that didn't work, and start to be able to build those steps.
Yeah, we have to realize that things happen slowly.
Okay.
You know, and progress happens slowly.
Right.
So, you know, we have to take that into consideration.
Well, we in 2020, so I'm not sure about that now. But with that said, let's take a small break, you know, share some of our sponsors, and we'll be back.
We would like to thank our sponsors. The Juice Box, located on North 58th Street in West Philadelphia, serving organic drinks and more. ESPN Hair Zone, quality professional hairstylists for over 20 years for the West Philadelphia community. Sacred Healing Massages, providing mobile services in the Metro DC and North Virginia areas.
Welcome back. So before we left off, we were talking about the exposition of Negro Progress that was being held in Chicago in 1915, which was the 50th anniversary of the freedom from slavery.
Yes.
You know, and so what else can you tell us about this event?
Okay, well, while the people were staying there in Chicago, many of them stayed at the local YMCA.
Okay.
Remember again, yeah, this is 1915, and finding hotels for Black people at that time was very, very difficult. So many people stayed at the local YMCA that was there, and that became like the big meeting place. Like after you went to the exposition, they would come back, and then people would come back and they would discuss the things that happened at the exposition. So they would start, you know, they would talk maybe about politics, or they would talk about journalism, or they would talk about racial issues, or, you know, so again, people were coming back to this hotel and discussing all of these issues that were important in the Black community. So then after the exposition was over, of course, many people still stayed around and they were still talking. And what happened in September, I do believe, yes, in September of 1915 that Dr. Woodson, along with 4 other people, and so let me read this. Okay, so with 4 other people, okay, George Cleveland Hall, who was Booker T. Washington's personal physician.
Okay.
W.B. Hargrove, who was a teacher in the Washington, D.C. public schools. Alexander L. Jackson, who was the executive secretary of the YMCA in Chicago, so I guess that's why they were there at that the YMCA, okay. And James Stamps, who was a Yale University graduate student in economics, okay. They formed the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, okay. The association's mission statement was to promote, research, preserve, interpret, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture to the global community. Okay, and a month later, it got incorporated.
You know, I while you were doing this research and you were sharing this information with me, I found it funny because ain't that kind of like what we trying to do now? You know, it's like, you know, so again, it's we just doing the same thing over again. And when we can study the history, then we don't have to repeat it and we can learn from those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so these 4 men organized and, you know, began the advancement of this for, of, and by us. Okay, and so now we have not just, you know, Carter G. Woodson in 1924, but we have this organization in 1897. We have another organization in 1808. In 1908, we have individuals. You know, all of these things, all of these organizations and individuals are a part of what brought us Black History Month. And so, you know, when we're talking about Black History Month, personally, this is the type of history that our youth should be educated with initially. You know, just the introduction of Black History Month and why and how it became what it is.
Yes, exactly. So, and hopefully after people know these things, you know, now teachers will be able to teach this into their classrooms because now they will know the information.
All right, yeah,
okay?
So make sure y'all share this video, particularly with teachers.
Yes.
Because it's the only way for them to know right now as we develop, you know. And again, like you said before, you know, history and education and research takes time, you know, and we need more researchers. So if you're interested, you know, connect with us. Yes. Check us out on the email below.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, getting back to Black History Month and Carter G. Woodson particularly, you know, you said that you told us that, you know, 1915 is when this organization began, and so, you know, what else was going on? I know so much we can.
Okay, well, after the organization was started in 1915, early in 1916, he published, Dr. Woodson published the first journal of Negro history.
Okay.
Okay, and again, the journal was to give scholars and you know, teachers, whatever, a venue to publish their information. Okay, and but then also it was he was hoping that that civic organizations would then pick up the information from the journal and then disseminate it out to other people like that. Okay,
so kind of like what I just asked, is that we doing it with media and they was doing it with books.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And again, he knew that these things, when people were writing things, would be laying in obscurity. You know, they would, you know, you write it and then no one wants to pick it up, no one wants to publish it. And so, you know, so this was a place where these things could get published, where these things wouldn't be lying in obscurity. You know, people would get the exposure that was due to it. Okay, and again, he was hoping that civic organizations, you know, so churches, recreation centers, you know, places would then pick it up.
Community.
Yes. Now, Dr. Woodson was a member of a civic organization. He was a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Okay.
And you know, and when some of his fraternity members, they went to go see him. He was teaching at, he was a dean at a college in West Virginia. And some of his fraternity members heard him speak. After they heard him speak, they then decided, they went back to the fraternity and told the fraternity, look, we need to pick this up.
Okay.
So the Omega Psi Phi fraternity in 1921 started the first Negro History and Literature Week. Okay? Now, they did this in April.
Okay.
They did it in April basically because this was the time that college campuses were on spring vacation. And, you know, Dr. Woodson knew that the college students would be available. And so he used that time on his college campus, you know, to teach this Negro History Week. And so the fraternity picked it up, and from 1921 to 1925, they did Negro History Week. The fraternity did.
The fraternity did. And so initially, well, you know, so again, we are knocking down myths and busting bubbles, you know, and so, you know, one of the things that we need to pay attention to is the reality that the fraternities and sororities had a very large part in to play in the advancement of black people in general, you know, Negroes of America in general. And so, you know, we need to also respect the fraternities and sororities for the work that they have and the work that individuals of those fraternities and sororities have put in order for us to be where we are right now.
Right.
You know, they don't get enough respect, you know, particularly amongst the conscious community.
Right, and they still do this type of work.
Right, right. And so, you know, another thing that I'm noticing is that, again, the need for the advancement, the distribution, the publication of black work. You know, and, you know, still the issue that we deal with today where we don't own the distribution. Most of us don't own the publishing enough so to distribute, and so we are still dependent on others to share our history, our information, you know, and so that puts us in a disadvantage because we're not able to share amongst ourselves, yet alone the rest of the world.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, Dr. Woodson, he was also feeling the same thing, you know.
Okay.
So in the beginning, when, you know, the fraternity was taking up this cause in, you know, college campuses, he realized that audience wasn't large enough.
Okay.
He wanted this to go out to a much larger audience. So and again, I don't know if you remember that I mentioned, I think that I mentioned, but I'm not sure. But the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, no, I didn't mention this. But in 1925, they stopped Negro History Week. But it was actually when they handed it over to Dr. Woodson.
Okay.
Once he finished his deanship at this college in West Virginia,
Okay.
they handed it over to him. And at that point, again, that's when he realized that this wasn't large enough, and so I need to take this out to a larger audience. And so then that's when he started it, and started it in 1926.
You're still amazing me, even as we go over the show, that we, you know, because again, he was a dean of a college. You know, these are things that they don't talk to us about with respect to even Carter G. Woodson, yet alone all of the other organizations and individuals that we are learning about right now that had something to do with his starting. But with that, you know, I would like to ask the question, okay, so we have Negro History Week taking part in April, you know, during spring break by the Omegas, you know, so what was the transition from April to February? But before you answer that question, let us take a small break, and when we get back, you can share with us some of your thoughts.
Okay.
All right, we'll be back.
Greetings. I'm Red Silver Fox, co-founder of Indeed Indigenous Education, and I would like to invite you to visit indedushop.com. That's indedushop.com, and help support our mission to educate the public of the omitted history of the brown and dark-skinned indigenous population of the Americas. And, as always, we would like to thank you for your support.
Welcome back. So before we took our break, we were talking about the Omega Psi Phi fraternity and how they were promoting Negro History Week in the month of April. So it's 1925 now.
1920, well, it's 26.
Carter G. Woodson takes back over in 1925, and now it's 1926. And how does the celebration move from April to February?
Okay. Well, again, we did kind of mention this a little bit earlier, that it got moved to February because it was a time, the second week of February was a time that Black people in the United States were already celebrating that week.
Okay.
And it was because 2 birthdays fell during that week. Okay. So the first birthday was Abraham Lincoln, who was born on February the 12th. Okay. And of course, he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. He was the one that was responsible for freeing the slaves, and so he was being celebrated every year on his birthday.
Kind of like a Juneteenth before Juneteenth.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And also Frederick Douglass's birthday, which was on February the 14th. Okay. And he was the famous abolitionist that was fighting for Black people, and so again, very famous person. And with those 2 birthdays falling on that same week, Black people that was just a week for celebration for them. And so Carter Woodson just thought that would be a good week for his Negro History Week.
So hold on, wait a second. A few things. You mean even 105 years ago, we found a reason to barbecue? We gonna barbecue even in the wintertime, huh? It's February. We still gonna party.
Hey.
Hey, listen. Okay, so and again, what I'm hearing is that wait a second, he chose this because he was just trying to promote his cause. We were partying at this time already without any organization, without any foreign government or government control
telling
or
us when to celebrate or what to celebrate
or what to call it or anything. We decided, listen, every year we're gonna party because we freeze now, and our abolitionist friend birthday is the same week that the president of the United States that freed us says, you know what, we're gonna barbecue this week.
Right.
Sounds like a great idea to me. Right. Okay, so Woodson says, hey, listen, I need to take this and grow this audience because it's only reaching college students on college campuses.
Right. So what they did is that he then went and took it and put it in the care of many organizations. Okay. So churches, civic organizations, recreation centers, businesses,
sororities and
fraternities, schools, universities, Black schools. So all of these organizations were to pick it up, and these first celebrations, though, they were happening in Washington D.C., in Maryland, so basically the Baltimore area, okay, in Delaware, and in West Virginia. Okay. Now West Virginia, again, it seems like the outlier.
But he taught at school
he was teaching there. Yes,
was that
and so
HBCU?
That's why he was there. I'm not exactly sure. Probably is. Okay. Okay.
I used to know the school, but I forgot it.
Yeah. Yes, and so did I. So did I.
Do your own research. Can't get everything from us.
Okay, but by the 1930s. Okay. This had really spread. So it has spread to many different cities. So let me read the cities. Okay, it has spread to Atlanta, to Boston, Detroit, Kansas City, Louisville, New York, Philadelphia, and Toledo, Ohio. Okay.
Hold on. Louisville?
In Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, Louisville.
Okay, Louisville.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, and you know what? I was looking at the spelling and I said Lewis.
Okay. I got y'all back, y'all. I know y'all like, hold on, wait a second.
I saw the spelling. Louis is Lewis. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, this is not name. Okay,
That's
but go
all.
ahead.
Yes, okay. All right, but it was at these places where black people were exposed to things that they were not being exposed to before. You know, so again, it was there where some black people first heard of Langston Hughes. Okay,
I was trying to say
or
that.
may have you know, heard one of his poems. You know, heard of Paul Robeson. You know, who's Paul Robeson? You know, and to just hear his voice and you know and to know his history about him being a lawyer, and then the things that they were doing with him on Broadway. You know, and you know, so all you know, so these were stories now that black people were learning, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things there that we still need to learn that are probably laying there still in obscurity.
It's things laying down on our papers that we not state. So, you know, there's plenty of things for us to learn about. You know, it's just too much.
Yes, it is a lot.
You know, with that said, I noticed before we wrap it up, you said the 1930s. The Harlem Renaissance comes to mind, you know, and with respects to culture and art and painting and things of that nature. And, you know, another thing that comes to my mind as a part of, you know, just Carter G. Woodson's desire is he gifted his idea to the black community at large. He said, hey, everybody, we need to do this, and just gifted the idea and the program that he had established to us as a collective community, you know, and in return, this generation, we won't even study who he is. We allow, you know, myths and legends and what sounds good to, you know, try to actually move us away from celebrating Black History Month in a lot of so-called conscious communities. And so, you know, this is a good way for us to begin to recognize that we have to be better. We gotta look at our history in a better way. We can't just speak our mind because the emotions state at this point. It's 2020. You know, if we're not going to be self-responsible for our actions now, then when time is it? When do we do it?
Right, exactly.
You know, and so again, that's just a small introduction into the history of Black History Month, which extends beyond 1926 and includes so many other people.
Yes, so I just want to make this point.
Okay.
Is that President Gerald Ford,
Right.
okay, he officially recognized Black History Month
Okay.
in 1976.
Okay.
Now, you know, before that, you know, we were celebrating 1 week, you know, and then we took it from a week and extended it more, and we extended it to a month because we were like, look, there's more history than that. We need to do it more than this 1 week, you know. But then, so the President, Gerald Ford, in 76, and what he did is that he called upon the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history.
Nice.
So that is what he called on the public to do.
Which is a sign, that's a show of respect, a show, you know, I can't be mad at him. You know, I can respect that, you know, and it gives us the opportunity to be able to sit down and talk about it here and today.
Yes.
You know.
And again, the too often neglected accomplishments that Black people, even today in 2020, still do not know about.
Right. And so, yeah, it's been a joy to be able to sit down next to my mama and do this again.
And hopefully we'll get some more done.
Well, like you said, the research, the time, the energy that it takes to be able to present this to you in a very factual way, using our real names, you know.
Yeah, and it takes time. We just don't throw a show together in a couple of days. It takes weeks of research.
Yeah, months.
Yes, really, the weeks of research is putting together the years of research that we. Yes.
So yeah,
it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
With that, we got so much going on. Please visit our website at ind.edu to stay in ind. edu, no, just ind.edu.org,
Okay.
right? So again, ind.edu.org. We have information, we have lessons that we are offering to the larger community. They're online. And so if you're interested in learning from my mom directly or learning some information with respect to civics or law from me, you can check us out. Definitely subscribe to our Facebook page at Indigenous Education. You'll be able to find a lot of information. My mother wrote a few books, everybody, Revealing America's Dark-Skinned Past, Volume 1 and Volume 2. So you hadn't checked that out, please make sure that you check that out. And again, we're using this.
Our YouTube.
Our
Subscribe to
YouTube. Oh, right. Our YouTube channel, search An American Deception and subscribe to me, Tapper Sanders, and you'll be able to see this show and a lot more. And there's a lot more information that we got coming out. We're going to be doing some great things. We're going to be establishing some certification programs for you over the next few months, so definitely stay tuned to the website with respects to that. And if you have any if you have any topics of discussion or a show that you would like for us to do, email us at indeed.edu@gmail.com.
Say it again.
INDED. Oh no. And we're not gonna cut this out either. Email us at indeed.edu@gmail.com. It's running across the bottom. Y'all got it. It's been a while. So we're gonna get back to doing this so me and my mom can start sharing more with y'all. And we hope that y'all enjoyed the show, right?
Yes.
We enjoyed ourselves, right?
Yes, we did.
All right, have a great one, and we hope to see y'all soon.
Peace.
One day we'll see we're one big family, like it's one kettle. It's the same sunshine, it's the same rain, the same struggle just to maintain. Maybe one day we'll see we're one big family, like it's one kettle.
Greetings. I'm Red Silver Fox, co-founder of Indeed Indigenous Education, and I would like to invite you to visit indedushop.com. That's indedushop.com, and help support our mission to educate the public of the omitted history of the brown and dark-skinned indigenous population of the Americas. And as always, we would like to thank you for your support. We would like to thank our sponsors, The Juice Box, located on North 58th Street in West Philadelphia, serving organic drinks and more. ESPN Hair Zone, quality professional hairstylists for over 20 years for the West Philadelphia community. Sacred Healing Massages, providing mobile services in the Metro, D.C., and North Virginia areas.